Guys, say what you want, but why is this thing actually clean? That is by far one of the coolest Camrys I've seen. I like straight up thought that was some luxury Lexus or something at first, but that's a Camry up there. Everybody say it with me, normalize making casual cars sporty. Now, real quick, before we get started with the video, I wanted to ask a question. Our modern day technology has advanced so far that have you ever wondered what it would be like if you took a console game and tried to squeeze it onto a phone? And I would say that there is a game just like that for you guys, which is none other than Raid Shadow Legends. Raid Shadow Legends lets you explore millions of champion combinations, taking on raid bosses, dungeon runs, PvP arena matches, and more. Feel free to use my links below to download the game on mobile or on PC. I gotta give one of my faves to Astralon. Like, look at this. He is a beast, but not only just a beast, a beautiful looking beast with amazing graphics and just looks deadly. As well as Roxanne, because no one can fight this dude. This dude is invincible. And he is a wall that cannot be conquered. I love that this game is super easy to play. I love all the different champions in it and all their different characteristics that they have. So what's new for Raid? Well, Raid has a lot of jam-packed events that they are planned out for this summer, as well as they're always dropping in new champions so you never get bored, and they're having new rotations of the Doom Tower. I don't know about you guys, but I'm gonna try and summon as many of these new champions as I can so that they can help me try and reach the top of this Doom Tower. So if you guys are watching this right now, lucky for you, you guys can get a head start in Raid by clicking the link in the description or clicking my QR code, and you will get an epic hero Chinoru, who is amazing at the Doom Tower. 200,000 silver, XP boost, energy refill, and 1 ancient shard. So you can summon an awesome champion as soon as you get in game. Once you're in, all of your treasure can be found here. It's just that easy. Just click the link in the description and I'll see you guys in game. The S14 situation. Let's start out with what happened. For those of you that have not been keeping up with the S14 videos that we've been putting out, basically on my last drift day, I was out drifting and on one of my runs, something blew. And I brought the car in and we suspected that it was the turbo, just because that there was no clearly audible knocking that was coming from the actual motor itself. And there was mainly oil and smoke coming out of the turbo when we had the engine on, so we suspected it was that. We spent about an entire month doing a turbo swap on the S14 to an S15 turbo just because of various lines that were leaking, and any tiny little thing that could have gone wrong kind of went wrong. But eventually we had the new turbo set up on the car and we brought the car into the shop so that it could finally get tuned with the new turbo on it. And when they were getting it ready for tuning, that's when they could really realize that the car was not firing properly and we were not getting any compression from cylinder 3. And eventually we took one of those little micro cameras, looked inside, and there was some visible damage inside the motor, as well as just complete no compression from cylinder 3. And that has led us to the conclusion that unfortunately the motor was blown. I never really addressed how the motor became blown from that drift day, because there was a bunch of things leading up to it that we're pretty certain on what it was. And when we're at the tune day, we discovered that the ECU inside the car was not a stock SR ECU. It was in fact a Mines one, which, as cool as a Mines ECU would be, that meant that it was a Japanese ECU that had the motor tuned for Japanese octane, which Japanese octane is up in the hundreds. It's a lot higher than the 92 octane that I fill up the car with the gas around here. So that means if you drive a car for a long time that's tuned for higher octane and you're not putting high enough octane in it, then it's gonna run too lean. If you drive a car, especially maybe drift a car a little bit too much while it's running too lean, then eventually something is gonna give in and the motor is gonna go. And that is what happened. We unfortunately just didn't know that the car was tuned for the wrong octane the entire time. So the lesson learned is that if you ever are getting a JDM car like a Skyline over there or an S chassis with an SR20, make sure your ECU is not Japanese and make sure your car is tuned for the right octane. Where is the car now? The S14 is frankly just chilling in Austin's backyard right now. After we figured out that the motor was blown, we trailered it right over to his place because he actually lives really close to the shop, so there's no point in trailering a non-running car way up to where I live when it's gonna have to end up back at the shop anyway. It's just vibing, kind of abandoned in his backyard right now. And the last, most important question that I want to answer is, what are we doing now? Oh yes, I've read all the the comments, everyone has probably thrown out every little motor swap imaginable that I could take advantage of the scenario and do. We considered all the options, and to simply put each one of them, rebuilding the previous blown motor, that's a risk because a lot of machine shops and a lot of parts are just really backed up right now to do that, so that could be as long as a 6-month process, and I want to get the car back there as soon as possible. We also don't know the state of the motor on how badly it was blown, so it might have been blown beyond repair. RB motors are on the more expensive, delicate side. JZ motors are on the way more expensive side, and LS motors is just frankly what I don't want to do. With that all kept in mind, the one solution that makes the most sense for right now is to find another SR that is hopefully a little more reliable than my last one too, and just quickly throw it in there into the car. And you have to keep in mind that with my old motor, because we were trying to do a turbo swap, I got a brand new turbo for the car. I got brand new injectors for that SR. I got a brand new ECU for that SR. I got all these brand new expensive SR parts for my last SR that frankly blew up. And if I were to just swap in a JZ, that would just mean I'd have to sell all those parts and they'd all go to waste, and it would just be kind of a waste of all that money spent. So it just makes the most sense. You have to hear me out when it makes the most sense to just find another healthy SR, swap it in, and then I could put all my brand new goodies that I was supposed to get from my last motor onto a newer motor, like the new turbo, new injectors, and all that stuff. And then in the end, we will have, once again, a healthy and hopefully long-term running SR that will be making even more power than I last was, because I never even got fully tuned. I never even had a bigger turbo. On this newer SR, we'll definitely be going for a little bit more power than I even had in the past for drifting. Also, the last reason why I want to remain SR is that the style and approach I want to go for this S14 is I want to keep it authentic to the roots of drifting in Japan and some of the grassroots cars over there. I don't want to make this car a very Americanized pro car with an LS and all that stuff. I want to make this a more stancy boy with true SR roots in it, keeping the authentic motor, and most of the guys in Japan all stay with SRs and all that stuff. So I want to keep that Japanese heritage style intertwined with the car, and that's kind of how I want to go about it visually and internally. So that's another reason for keeping the motor. Now currently we have ordered an SR that is from Canada. We've ordered it online and it's going to be shipped down to the shop, and it should arrive at the shop by the end of this week. So I'm gonna document as soon as it gets there and show you guys exactly what this new motor setup looks like. So in the end, of course, I never wished for any of this to happen, but with it happening, you might as well, I guess, look on the positives. And the positives are is that we are gonna have a much better motor in the car further out, and there's just so much more still planned for this S14 drift project car that, you know, it still makes me really excited and looking forward to things that I want to do to it. And I hope that you guys can be excited for the more further drifting content and build-up content of the car that's to come. So subscribe if you haven't. It means a lot to me when you guys like all the videos, view all the videos, and check out the merch. Thank you guys for listening to me ramble throughout all this entire video, and this is gonna be JackUltraMotive signing it off. Ho ho ho, there's some big boxes down there. Stay tuned for the next video to figure out what is going to be happening.